Sarah.
Hello!
And we're going to be talking all about how to connect with journalists via social media, and we also want to talk about how to respond to a media request. Now, the reason why I've asked the lovely Sarah to come along is she's a matchmaker and she's a dating expert and a fantastic blogger, and we've been working together now for at least 6 months, and it's been great to see Sarah's PR journey, and her confidence has grown so much that she's almost just so nonchalant now about, oh yeah, I've got that interview here and that request there and that kind of thing. So Sarah, thank you for taking the time out to do this interview. Just tell us a little bit about your experience to PR to date in a kind of a nutshell.
Oh, well, my experience before entering into Blueboo was me just going out very much in the dark and quite nervous and not treading in the right way, and forgetting that journalists were just people at the end of the day. And so yes, it has been quite scary, but obviously now my confidence is in a different place with it all. I've been in lots of magazines as a matchmaker, as a dating expert. I'm often asked for relationship advice in the media, all that kind of stuff. And so yes, quite experienced, I like to think. I'm not so sure. I'm keeping very busy and often chatting to a lot of different people in the press on Twitter, so constantly engaged at present.
Brilliant. So what we're going to talk about in this interview, we're going to dive a little bit further into how to respond to a Twitter media request, because a lot of the journalists now are using Twitter to put a media shout out. Have you found it's worked for you? Because when we first were talking, it's really kind of has evolved, even in the last 6 months alone, hasn't it really? A lot more journalists now are proactive. But just before we go into how you do it, just tell us how you felt before you did those first kind of few connections with the journalists via Twitter. Were you nervous? Were you scared? Did you think that you weren't an expert?
It wasn't that I didn't think I was an expert. I was petrified that they wouldn't think I was an expert. Yeah. I was petrified that they would think that we have someone who has more knowledge or whatever. But the reality is they're looking for great, insightful content, and they want the quickest person to get back to them as possible. And as long as you're hot off the mark and you know what you're talking about, you are an expert. So yeah, at first I was absolutely petrified, and then obviously when I got more engaged with them and was able to speak to them, from person to person, not from expert to journalist, and it was all a completely different story.
Fantastic. So let's just dive in a little bit more deeper now then, and just kind of get into the nitty-gritty, or the insider PR secrets, if you like, of how it works. It's actually not rocket science, is it? We know that it's been consistent, and it's building relationships, and it's obviously knowing how to go about it. And one of the services we provide now is a media request service. So we are tracking all of the journo requests that come in, or PR requests, and we put them into categories for you. And you control that for just £1 for 14 days and see how fantastic the service will work for you. That what Sarah's been doing is she's kind of a bit further down the line already now. She's responded to media requests, but she also knows how to track and connect to the journalists. So just tell us, Sarah, how has it worked for you about building the relationships with journalists? Have you connected with some of them on Twitter, and have you retweeted? Have you helped them out? How's it worked for you?
Well, I've been using it in a variety of different ways. I mean, I like to think I'm a bit social media savvy. Yeah. And so that was kind of my forte. I was blogging and tweeting and all of that. And so, via using your service, I noticed that you had not only the contacts of the people that I needed to speak to, but their full social media outlets. And so what I thought was, instead of, sending press releases out and going a bit, kind of cold out in the dark, hoping that they would pick me up on one thing or another, it was kind of constantly thinking of content. What I started to do was put something together like, a matchmaker's going to be in town, or have you heard about this, or have you seen this in the press? And I'd blog about it, and then I'd tweet each journalist that I wanted to target individually with the blog that I'd written, or with a blurb that I'd put out on a Facebook or something like that. And so they were picking it up. I mean, what it took was, an hour or two solidly thinking about my actual target market for the journalists and for the circulations that they have, and targeting them appropriately. So you have to be very focused, and it is almost like one step ahead, but we have to be in this day and age where people are so connected and connectable. So yeah, that was my plan, and it has been working.
Fantastic. So is it just Twitter you've been using, or have you been connecting them via LinkedIn or via Facebook or any other kind of social media outlets?
To be honest, it has just been Facebook and Twitter.
Okay.
LinkedIn is a very brilliant tool for publishing articles and things like that. And yes, you might get picked up in that sense, but you have to have journalists on there looking for you, at that specific time that you're needed. Whereas you are so quickly connectable with Facebook by, hashtagging your journal requests or whatever, that you are picked up immediately, more so than anyone else. And so I think it's the best, quickest and most effective way to speak to anyone in the arena of journalism, I do think.
So just give us an example, if you can think of any, that has come as a result of being on Twitter or Facebook, anything that you've secured or conversations that you've had?
I can tell you, when I was working as a matchmaker in New York for a few months, and I wanted to build traction in a region in the UK for when I got back, and so there was a blog written about, a matchmaker is coming to Manchester, she's flying in from New York, having spent 3 months with these dating experts, and now she knows what's hot on the scene, and do you want to speak to a New York matchmaker who's from Manchester, a northern girl who knows what she's talking about in the dating world? And I wrote a blog about that. And so what I did was I used the tool very effectively by putting all the Manchester journalists in whatever capacity, whether it was food, because I knew that I could relate dating and food together for first dates and things like that. So I was kind of like thinking a little bit innovatively, and sat down 2 to 3 hours, put together my list, and I put the blog together, the content that was needed with my contact details, and I sent it out to them all individually. And within an hour or two, I had about 6 journalists come back to me, press at events that when I launched, did an event there in Manchester. 2 different magazines were there. People were tweeting it. Certain press wanted to be affiliated with me and, have a revenue stream themselves. It was just so effective and, highly recommended. Absolutely.
Fantastic, because we offer 2 services at Bluebee if you're new to watching this interview. So we offer the daily media requests that are coming in from the journalists, and that's just £29 a month. And then we have a media database as well, which is slightly more expensive, which is what Sarah was part of. So she had access to her own media database, every single journalist in the whole of the UK, and it meant that you could really drill down, didn't it? So you could actually research and find all the journalists that wrote about relationships or dating, and you could literally research any of the women's interest titles, and then you could connect with them via the social media outlets. So you've done it very strategically, haven't you?
Yeah, surprisingly for me, I'm not really a strategist or anything, but yeah, it seemed to work. And also what I found was really interesting was the fact that you could kind of work out the income bracket of the people in the circulation as well. And, matchmaking is an industry, when it's on a personal level, that's pretty much aimed at those with high disposable income. So, I need the right market to be reading it, the right target market. And so you are able to do that with the Blueboo. It's the academy that the
media database. You get the academy as well, but yes, and anyone that's watching this, I can happily arrange a trial for you, no problem. We just set up a Skype call. I can show it to you online, and then we set up a trial, because it really does work, and it means it's more specific to your audience. So Sarah, like you said, you can adapt dating to going out to restaurants from an eating point of view. You can adapt it to the women's interest, can't you? You can adapt it to men. So we can adapt all the different kind of PR strategies to your core target market. And like you said, from a social profile point of view, you can target the ABC ones, can't you? And the demographics that you want, which is exciting. So coming back to like the Twitter then and Facebook, do you regularly connect to them? Are you watching? Are you retweeting? How are you helping the journalists? Because what we're finding is the journalists need help so quickly, don't they? So that you can react to them. How are you finding that on a day-to-day basis?
I'm finding that using Twitter and Facebook really is a great enabler for that. And yes, I'm using that frequently because it just means that you're, just hot on it all of the time. That's mainly what I'm using to utilise the journalist facility. And what were you saying a moment ago? What was the other question?
So are you reacting and helping them out with news stories? Are you actually seeing that they're putting the media requests out, or
yes,
are you blogging your way and they're reacting to you, or is it a bit of both?
It's definitely a bit of both. I mean, every couple of days I would say I check on Twitter for hashtag journalist requests, or sometimes if they're a bit cool, they put hashtag journal requests because they're far too busy.
Yeah.
And so it's picking up on the things that they're doing, and there's also quite a few Facebook groups for certain journalists that you can tap into. I'm not sure if they have to accept you or whatnot, but I've noticed that there are a few groups on Facebook, and I have joined them, and they say, oh, I'm looking for you to be featured in this, that or the other.
Yeah.
And so that's a great tool. But I've found so far that putting the content together, using the database that you have, and being a little bit creative and innovative has been the most effective thing so far.
So just tell us then, because at one point, and I know it didn't come off, but you actually got approached to do a TV station as well, didn't you? Do a TV show or something?
Yes, I mean, a few times. I think, matchmaking is such a fascinating subject, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. We all date, and we all want someone to share our life with. And so people are always looking to talk about it. And in my time, I've been approached by so many different TV shows and have done filming. The last one, they were looking for, an ITV series of a UK matchmaking team who can go out and matchmake the masses in the UK looking for love. And so we did do that, but we were just a bit too similar to something else. Right. I think it's because they have the wonderful and scary Patty on there that it was too much of a class. We're far friendlier than that, but it just didn't work out. But at the end of the day, that will boost your confidence in PR and in the press as well. And you can promote yourself from being contacted to do such a thing. It's interesting.
Brilliant. And also, you've had access to Blue Boost coaching as well via the academy, and we've had some mastermind private calls as well. And we teach you to ride off the back of stories. So anything that's out there, you have actually in the past jumped on the back of topical stories, haven't you? And you've had PR coverage, haven't you, I think?
Yes, I have. You have to be very dedicated to reading the news and being hot on it again. So, if you're reading the paper in the morning, or you're watching the news, or you see on Twitter a news story that's relevant to your industry, you do have to create content, contact journalists, and be the first on the scene for that. Because, just as I'm a matchmaker, there are other matchmakers in the industry that are thinking the same way.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I mean, having the platform there that you've got all the contacts in place, that's surely going to help you. In the past, if there's been a public breakup or something like that, we've been and we've got in contact with the press, and they're interested in a dating expert's perspective on that from a coaching standpoint. And so that's interesting, and we have had people come back to us. So
have you found it, Sarah, then? How has it helped your business from a positioning you as an expert point of view, from getting new clients? How has it helped your business? Because that's what it's all about. PR has to be, we have to have a reason for doing it. So how has it helped your business?
I think it's helped on two different levels. On a personal level, doing this and working through the academy, and doing the masterclasses where we're all accountable to each other as experts in our industry, that kind of pushes you along. And yes, you make lists of things that you've got to do, but you are accountable to somebody. If you're on your own, if you're an entrepreneur, or if you work quite solely the majority of the time, it makes you accountable to somebody else, and so you have to crack on with the work. So that's what I found was really useful, and it just made me work towards a deadline, knowing that we had another call to do. And so that helped to not only boost my confidence, but I do think in talking to you as an expert in your industry, Rachel, I realised that journalists are just people. And I think, thinking back, that was my biggest hurdle, realising that they're not that scary. At the end of the day, they just want some great content. And in my industry, there's never really anything negative. It's a very empathetic, industry to be in.
Yeah.
And so they always want to write great things about love, about your testimonials, and it's an industry that helps people. So, unless you've got any bad stories to tell, that they're not going to write it. So it depends what angle you come from.
And I think that's such a great point, Sarah. And so many people that will be watching this will be at the point where I was originally, or probably where you were originally, and that we were a bit scared. We kind of put journalists on a pedestal, don't we? We're a bit scared, and we think, even though we know we're the expert in our industry, like you said right at the beginning, we don't know whether they're going to see us as the expert. But basically, at the end of the day, it's a win-win scenario because they have to turn the stories around so quickly. On the whole, they're generally really grateful for your help, aren't they?
I'm really grateful because they have their deadlines like we have ours.
Yeah.
And so, if you're contacting them without them, reaching out to you in the first instance, then you're giving them content that they didn't have and they didn't have to search for. So you've actually saved them time and money, which at the end of the day, we're all in business. That's what we want to do. We want to save time, make money. And so it works well for them if you're the one picking up the phone and saying, look, it might be a bit of a long shot, but I'm wondering, are you looking for anything in love, any relationship advice, anything in dating, anything in events? That's me. I can help you. Let me know what your lead times are and add me to your little black book. They sometimes say, oh, you're a bit forward and a bit cheeky. And I say, well, you don't know if you don't try.
Absolutely.
They add you. Yeah.
And the great thing is with PR and the way that we connect everybody via the Media Den, which is the media request service via the media database, you can be proactive, but we also teach you how to be reactive as well. So, we offer the service where you're getting daily media requests in. In the past, how have you found responding to media requests, Sarah? Because I know this is something that you actively do. Have you had success? Have you had coverage by responding to media requests?
In my time, definitely. Again, you have to be very reactive, very quickly, and you have to know your stuff.
Yeah.
So, you can't just respond saying, oh, I'm an expert in this, contact me.
Yeah.
If their contact details are there, you pick up the phone and you follow up with an email as well, or you contact them and then call them straight away. And actually, it's not just responding saying, oh, I'm an expert. It's, I'm an expert. Here are my thoughts on this topic.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit more. You have to give them something for them to call you or for you to call them and follow up with. So it is a case of being reactive and knowing your stuff, definitely.
And have you ever found, because they're not always going to reply to you straight away, because like you say, they might get 4 or 5, dating experts or relationship experts that would have responded to that media request. Have you ever found, though, that they've said to you, we'll keep your details on file and come back to you in the future? And has the relationship ever, because I've had that happen to me and I've had some of my members, but has that ever happened to you? Have you developed a relationship over time with them?
That's a very interesting point. Yes, I have had that, but I wish every journalist was that kind and had the time to come back to me and say, oh, I've just added your details, I'll come back to you. But it's not the case. But I have had random emails out of the blue from different, great magazines saying, you responded to us once, we didn't get back to you, but we've got this now. And that's because if they find another expert in your field more topical at the time, that doesn't mean that you're not interesting to them.
Yeah.
So they do add you and come back to you in the future without you even knowing, which is interesting. It's the fear of not knowing that they're going to do that. So I would say if you're going to be reactive and you're going to follow up with them, you should easily just say, please add me if I'm not good for you this time. It'd be great to chat in the future. And they'll do that. They'll do just that.
And the good thing is, it's exciting, it costs next to nothing to do, and, one lucky break in a national magazine or on a radio station could absolutely turn any business around, couldn't it? What would you say to anybody that was, thinking about, trying PR but hadn't done it before, or perhaps wants to sign up to give the trial a go for £1? I mean, it's a no-brainer, but maybe they've never done it before, but they want to try like the Media Den, trial it for £1 for 14 days, or maybe even trial the media database. What would you say to anyone that was kind of new to this, Sarah, because you were there once?
Yeah, I mean, obviously as business people, we're all probably always thinking about the return on investment in time, in money, and all of that. And yes, it's really important. But what I would say is that if you get one really great piece by any magazine, say you've got Cosmo or Tatler that pick you up for whatever industry you're in, that magazine will be on a dentist's table, on a doctor's table for a lifetime. Yeah. And I tell you, from pieces that I've had in the past, from 2 to 3 years ago, I'm still, getting traction from it now. Oh, I just picked it up in a dentist the other day while I was waiting for my appointment. And I read that you're a dating expert in this, that and the other, and you've had this testimonial. If you get one great piece, it could be 2 to 3 years down the line worth of inquiries to your business. So I think it's worth a go, definitely.
And what about in terms of, the bloggers? Because there's, when we talk about PR, we know there's radio, TV and the national newspapers and magazines, but there's loads of blogging websites out there, isn't there, and day-to-day websites that need genuinely good content. Have you been supplying any articles to them at all? Have you had any success on that side?
Definitely. And I think supplying content, I suppose outsourcing your content to somebody that needs, a filler for something, maybe it's relevant, or maybe it's adaptable to make it relevant, so perhaps in beauty or whatever, it's relevant to confidence, and it's relevant to our industry as matchmakers. So if you can supply content to somebody else and they can link it back to your website, it will definitely boost your positioning online and generate inquiries. So every little helps along the way, and we need PR just as much as we need online presence. And I know in our industry it's our window, and so being online and top of your game on Google or whatever, Yahoo, is important. Yeah. So building that content, whether it's digitally or in print, is really relevant to what we need.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. If you're going to leave anyone with one little tip, and I haven't asked you this or prepared, what would it be? What would you say to them?
If you can bite the bullet and make that first step to call a journalist, the first call will just be, the last bit of nerves as far as I'm concerned, because through doing the academy, everyone else was storming ahead, calling journalists, getting radio interviews, and here's me still building brilliant content, but was so petrified to pick up a phone and, worried about what they might say to me. Yeah. But actually, in the end, they were so helpful and grateful, and, having meetings with journalists after that, which is quite a rarity.
Yes.
So if you can do it, you absolutely should, and then going forward, everything else will be so much easier.
Oh, Sarah, thank you so much. What I'll make sure we do is we'll make sure we put your details so that people can get in contact with you, because they never know, they might need your services, or if they just want to connect with you, I'll make sure all the details are there. But Sarah, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and good luck with continuing your PR journey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, darling. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.